going to get started. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris Zellers, and I am with Rutgers Cooperative Extension of Cape May County. And I am an assistant professor there, a CHS educator. The curriculum that we're going to use today was written by myself and Jen Chikaitis, my colleague. And as we go through, we'll see, we're going to be talking about financial wellness today. All right, just to give you a quick review of Rutgers Cooperative Extension, for those of you that may not be aware, I do not work at the university. I work for the university as part of the university, but I work right down here in Cape May Courthouse, luckily, so I can live and work where I love. And the structure of Cooperative Extension is that we are a partnership between the County Board of Chosen Commissioners, Rutgers, the State University of New Jersey, and USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture, or NIFA. We currently have faculty or staff in all of the counties across the state of New Jersey, so we're very fortunate for that. And we are the university arm to the community. So we are composed of 3 departments. They include 4-H and youth development, agriculture and natural resources, and then my department, which is family and community health sciences. And in family and community health sciences, the focus of our work is to provide outreach in New Jersey and beyond New Jersey as well about chronic disease prevention, nutrition, food safety, and overall wellness. We have a webpage both for the state site and for Cape May County. Has all kinds of great resources on it. They're free, and you can go there. You can download them. If you need any printed, you can call us and we'll send them out to you, but they're there for your use. Also, Rutgers Cooperative Extension is an affirmative action and equal opportunity employer. All right. So again, like I said, this is the 8 dimensions of wellness. I was the lead author on this one. But like I said, Jen Chikaitis and I wrote the curriculum together. And I'll explain to you, we used some research base. We used SAMHSA as the basis for this that does all this provided all this great information. So for those of you that are online, Brooke has released the poll, and I'd like to mention Brooke is and chairs down in Cape May Courthouse at the Rutgers Cooperative Extension Office, and she's behind the scenes letting this great stuff happen. So thank you, Brooke. For those of you that are in the audience, if you want to take out your phone and scan this, you can use it at the end of the class. It just gives a little feedback. Remember when you were in college and they used to make you fill out those? That's what I'm doing. That's what this is. I have to have them filled out. But so if you can't scan it, we're going to send a link out afterwards. Unfortunately, Julie, do you think there's any way you could get a piece of paper and pen so people could write down their emails and names if they're interested in getting more information, and we'll send the follow-up. I have a lot of great resources after this one that were created by my colleagues Karen Ensley and Barbara O'Neill. A lot of great financial information that we'll share out with you afterwards. To move on, I'll bring this back up at the end too, but I appreciate any feedback y'all can give me. All right, so let's talk about the objectives. As I said, we're talking about financial wellness today. There are 8 dimensions of wellness. If you have not made all the classes, no worries. You can go to our website. We have all the other dimensions posted, all 7 of the other dimensions posted. And then in November, we're going to do a wrap up of all of them. So, we did an introduction, and now we're going to do a little bit of a wrap up on them. But the objectives for today is we're going to identify the 8 dimensions of wellness. We're going to define overall wellness and what that means, what it looks like. We're going to understand the 8 dimensions of wellness, hopefully, by the time we leave, and how they interact with one another and really complement each other to create positive balance. And then we're going to discover ways to achieve, maintain, and improve our wellness. So hopefully we can keep that balance going, and we have it all lined up there. So the reason Jen and I started talking about creating this curriculum about 5 years ago when I started this job, I thought about it and I said, well, one of the spots that we cover here for FCHS, my department, is wellness. And I teach wellness, but what's wellness, right? It's very, very hard to define, as we'll talk about, but it's also a $4 trillion business. And people really have latched onto this idea of wellness. They're really, trying to find the wellness. I say this all the time. I look for the commercials and where there's wellness, like a lot of retailers are advertising it now. If you noticed, I've mentioned before the cars. So there's all different places and ways that they advertise wellness and try to sell it and market it, use it as a buzzword. If you search the term wellness, you might find somebody doing yoga. You might find this concept here with the balance. You might find people meditating. spas, essential oils. There's a lot of things you could find if you Google it right off the bat, but try to pay attention to where you're seeing what wellness is, because guess what? You don't have to pay. You don't have to put money out to have wellness. We're going to talk about how to do that and find that overall wellness for yourself, so that you don't have to put the money out and be part of that $4 trillion that's out there that they're trying to get. So there is a research-based, evidence-based through SAMHSA, that established what wellness is. It's a frequently used catch-all term, and it's very vague because it's so frequently used. So it can be a little bit vague, but let's look a little bit deeper into what the meaning is. Like, is it really so vague? So again, SAMHSA, which is the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, which is under the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, has a definition for what wellness is. So we're going to use Rutgers Cooperative Extension as we're at R1 University, so that means we're big on research. And that means that we only disseminate the information that we know is steadfast and research-based. Wellness is a model, and the wellness models we're going to use here is a holistic approach. And what holistic means is we're going to look at the whole picture. So a lot of times people will say that they, they're trying to achieve wellness, or they feel unwell maybe. But what does that really mean? Well, they might not be looking at all the different dimensions, and that might cause something to be off balance. And it's ironic I'm doing financial today, because if I'm being honest, financial is probably the ones that I'm a little off kilter with, have a little harder time being a little bit more managed. And the model that we're going to use, as I've mentioned before, it does include 8 different dimensions. So let's look at what those dimensions are. According to SAMHSA, SAMHSA envisions wellness not as the absence of disease, illness, and stress, but as the presence of positive purpose in life, satisfying work and play, joyful relationships, and healthy body and living environment, and happiness. So there's a lot of positive words there. So we're not looking at what we don't have. We're looking at what we do have in a positive way and trying to figure out how to make that all kind of sync together and balance for positivity. A lot of people too, when I ask them what wellness is, right away, they say physical and emotional. That's the first two. But that's not necessarily the case. And back in the day, when they first started looking at wellness and defining wellness, they did use, disease, making sure you don't have disease, and physical wellness and emotional wellness. But obviously we've evolved from that to make sure that we have other things. And as you can see here, I pointed out financial wellness. That's what we're doing today. But we have the 8 dimensions here, which include emotional, spiritual, intellectual, physical, environmental, financial, as I said, occupational, and social wellness. And here's a list with short definitions provided by SAMHSA. They're in alphabetical order. One is not more or less important than the other. They're all equally as important, as we'll see as we go through. And you can see here, again, they're saying satisfaction with current and future financial situations. So we'll talk a little bit more about that today, but we want to be able to plan and save. And one thing, hard lesson we learned this weekend from an unfortunate event with my family is that sometimes you think you have everything in order, and then, the floor goes out from underneath of you. So it's always good to have a little extra, if you can, put away and make plans to do that so that you have a safety net. An important part of well-being is the balance of these 8 dimensions of wellness. And because we each have individual needs, preferences, and capabilities, what I consider balance might be very different from what everybody else in the audience considers balance. So it's going to look different for all of us, is what I'm saying. Some people may feel very balanced socially, but physically could strive for more balance. And like I said, I feel pretty physically balanced at this point in my life. But when my emotions get really off, guess what gets off too? My financial, right? Because I'm a impulse buying spender. So like my emotions are up there, and what am I doing? I'm looking through what's on sale today that I don't need, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. If you're checking in with yourself regularly, which I hope you do, because as I've mentioned before, when you're balancing the 8 dimensions of wellness, if something's off kilter, take a step back and just try to evaluate, well, where am I with each of these dimensions? And I've learned from doing this that when I'm like, when my husband says, well, the credit card bill's really high this month. I'm like, yeah, I had a rough month emotionally. So, you know, take a step back, right? Take a step. He doesn't really like that excuse, but take a step back and try to see, you know, where you are and what's going on. And then figure it out based on those different dimensions. When we met last time, for those of you that are new, we did set goals, which we'll do at the end. So think about for a minute the goals you set for social wellness, because that was our last class. Think about those social wellness and how you might have made some goals for that, and check in with yourself. Like I said, it's going to look different for everybody. But it's a constant balancing act. So if you set those goals and, you know, they went to the wayside, stuff happens, you didn't get to check off that social wellness, then check back in on yourself. You know, visit it again, rebalance yourself from time to time. Like I said, looking at what's happening, what's throwing us off. And realize that the balance that we have, that we create through our own wellness as a holistic approach, has a ripple effect. So if we're making our emotional wellness better, it can then make our social wellness better, our financial wellness better, and it kind of spans out for overall positivity. Okay. So the financial wellness dimension involves income, which we'll talk about, debt, savings, understanding of financial resources and processes, and satisfaction of your current, and like I said, and your future financial situation. So that's the specific definition that SAMHSA provides for financial wellness. So let's check this out. I'm going to say this. Pause a minute and say this. Take small steps. I said that with all the other dimensions, and it's very true. With financial wellness, we're going to talk about having a plan, having goals, you know, things like that that will help you to see the long term. When we're in it, it's very hard to plan for the long term, especially if it's causing us some distress or imbalance. So take a minute, realize it takes about 6 weeks for a good habit to happen, for a positive change to happen. So, you know, just like I said with physical wellness, if you want to start doing something physically, like exercising or something, it's probably going to take you 6 weeks before you become consistent, and that's a habit. So take small steps as you do this. Try to pick one part of financial wellness, maybe to set a goal at the end of the class with, so that you can break it down and be more successful. We can't do everything at once, even though some of us think we can. But, you know, try to balance it out. Take one step at a time, break it into little pieces. Don't get overwhelmed. All right. So we did this part and go. Okay. So why do you think I chose financial wellness today? And we have reasons why we put these classes on, you know, all the different dimensions and why we do it. There's many reasons for financial wellness that, you know, can support those other areas of wellness, but being financially well can also encourage us to be financially secure over the lifespan. Again, hiccups happen, bumps in the road, but if we try to plan and be financially well, it can help us over our lifespan to have that security. Additionally, the dimensions overlap a lot, and having good financial wellness could support other areas of well-being. So for instance, financial wellness might include exploring positive ways to save money now and for your future, and that could help with your occupational wellness and your ability to be more flexible in your employment, right? So if you're doing good things and saving up, maybe you are a lucky person and you can retire early. I always say I'm going to call in sick the day I die so that they can sorry, I got to go to my funeral. Won't be in today. But you know, hopefully if you can plan that out when you're young, and that's something that I've really instilled in my children, is to try to be, you know, planning ahead now for long term. So hopefully that'll help with your occupational wellness. And that's true, again, over the 8 dimensions and how they can interact with one another to balance you out over financial wellness. That greater financial stability too can make you feel more emotionally secure. It can help us to get out and be more social, right? If social was your goal for last time, maybe we need to look at that. So, all right. So good reasons for financial wellness that we should work on. And then SAMHSA within each dimension has broken it down and created subsections for each area. And for financial wellness, They include work, checking and or savings account, debt and retirement, and other accounts. And we're going to talk a little bit about those as we go through. But first, we're going to examine these in a little bit more detail. We're going to make some positive changes towards financial wellness to better understand how to create to incorporate it into our lives. So the first area is work. And now I realized, and I knew this ahead of time, but when we talked a little bit about occupational wellness, well, we talked a lot in the class about occupational wellness, but during the class, there was questions, and even the class after, about if you're retired, how does occupational wellness impact your life? So occupational wellness doesn't have to include necessarily going to work in a profession, but it can include, how you're getting up in the day, you're managing your day, what you're doing for extracurricular activities or volunteer activities. So we talked about that during occupational wellness. Now, work, on the other hand, if you're retired, good for you. That's awesome. But, hopefully when you were working, you went through and were able to be retired comfortably now. But if not, this might pertain if you're not feeling so comfortable, and you might need to go back and do a little side part-time job or something like that. So just that preface there. Work can have an impact on our overall wellness, obviously, as we did discuss in that occupational wellness class. So ask yourself, does financial wellness impact my life? And how does it relate to my overall wellness? If your employment is not providing financial security, it might be necessary to find resources that can help you to be more gainfully employed. And it's also important that you are able to meet your obligations, like food, clothing, housing. You have to be able to check those boxes. Just see something really quick. Okay, there you go. Yeah, we want to make sure that, there we go. It's popping on my screen, but it's not populating up there for y'all. So you want to make sure that impact on your life is good. You want to make sure that you're not overextending your obligations so that you don't have the resources to live comfortably. I know that an example of this is housing. Especially in this area, right? It's difficult. It's expensive. And I know, especially for those people that rent, making sure they have enough income to balance that out. So think about that for your work and how that's influencing what you do, and it might be necessary to take other steps. The other thing you want to think about with work is your level of passion and how satisfied you are with it. If you're not satisfied in the work you do professionally, then maybe, again, seek volunteer work opportunities to fulfill that area that might not be met by what you're doing professionally. Sometimes we have to work, and sometimes it's not always easy to find what we love to do. But if you can't do that, then try to fill in that gap to be a little more satisfied at work by doing the volunteer work that you would like to do. Did they all populate there? Did I get that? Yeah, okay. All right, and the next section, as I mentioned, is our checking and savings account. And they're really important areas of financial wellness and that dimension. And we want to make sure that we prevent from being overextended. And that's really critical. And a good way to do that, and it might seem obvious to a lot of people, but you want to balance your checkbook. And I think that's sometimes something people overlook. So if you're not currently balancing your checkbook, you want to make sure to be doing that regularly. Likewise, it's really important to check the progress of any savings accounts you have and what they're doing. Might need to reevaluate them as well. Maybe they're not giving you the return that you would like. So, it might be important to do that. It's also important to make sure that you have savings goals and that your life goals match up. If you have these great life goals and you don't have any money to do it, then you're not going to be so happy with yourself. So try to set those goals so that they align and match up, and that you're able to do those things. They might include stuff like vacations, home ownership, or retirement. And then if you're using a budget, which is really important for your weekly, monthly, or yearly expenses, you're doing a good job. But if you're not using a budget, it's a great tool to keep track of those accounts. You want to make sure that you budget and you have enough money to pay the things you have to pay, like, again, housing and food, and that you're not overspending, and you still have a little bit left over, hopefully, to enjoy life. If you don't, then again, maybe you need to really reevaluate situations. And I know that's easy to say, but it's an important concept. You want to make sure that, again, you're revisiting all the time. And sometimes we have to make changes that we might not want to make, but it helps overall. If anybody wants to get up and get lunch, it will not faze me. Have at it. It smells really good. All right. And then the third area here for financial wellness is debt. And debt can be really daunting, especially if we get ourselves in over our heads. It's really tempting to ignore debt and think maybe it'll go away. It's not going to go away. It's still going to be there. And it's far more effective to understand what we owe and create a practical plan to pay it down. So to do this, you'll need to figure out what your total debt amount is. Again, don't hide from it. Find out what it is and try to find services that will help. I'm not doing it again. Will help with assisting what those with the debt reduction. I'm going to give you, again, I have a lot of good resources for that after this. And that'll help with the debt reduction or the debt management. And then if you find yourself, really sinking deeper into debt, ask for assistance to help you to achieve that financial wellness. You might have to get just some professional help or somebody that can help to relieve the stress of that debt with you. And it's, I said this during emotional wellness, and I'm very serious about it. We go to the doctor all the time if we have a broken arm, but we don't go if we are not feeling well mentally. It's the same thing with financial. Obviously, probably not going to a doctor, but check in with a financial agency. I'm going to give you resources. You want to look for .orgs, .edus that have resources that are safe and effective, so that you can get help if you do have that debt and need to do the reduction. And then next we have the final area, I believe, is retirement and other accounts. And these could be overlooked as we navigate day-to-day finances, but planning is really important. And it's a really important part of our financial wellness, not just for right now, but down the road in the future, so that we can retire and be able to live and be doing what we want to do in life. If you don't have any type of savings account, look for one that fits your needs. And I say fits your needs because that's, again, going to be different for everybody. You might want to, if your company has a credit union, I know Rutgers has a credit union. I take a small amount out of my paycheck every month, every paycheck. So I never even see it. So it goes right into the credit union. And then I have it set up that if I do get a pay increase, that it goes up with the pay increase. So, not feeling the punch so hard by not having it in my hand. So that might be a way to get some savings under your belt. Okay. Savings can really help us accomplish our goals. This one's like set up funny. You gotta fix this. Okay. Savings can really help us accomplish our goals. And again, like I mentioned earlier, plan for those unseen circumstances that might require a lot of money to go out suddenly. Just as, I mentioned, savings can help us to save. A retirement plan allows us to have money to provide for us after we stop working, which is important. And Social Security, still here right now. It does offer some benefits, but it's only a little percentage of your annual salary. So you need to plan for that and be prepared for that. And there's also, depending on your age with Social Security, you can work to a certain age and get full benefits or not all the full benefits. So you have to check that out and see what they are, check in with Social Security or one of their websites. And just as we talked about, being aware of what's going on with your checking and savings account, it's important to be mindful of your retirement savings and what you need to retire and maintain your financial wellness. Some employers do offer a retirement benefit counseling and other services. And if they don't, then, look for a place that does do that, that's reputable, again, and plan to save for retirement and realize it's never too early or too late to start, just like physical activity. Never too early or too late to start. All right, so we're going to talk about making positive changes for financial wellness, but I do want to make sure and stress this again, that we want to make sure when it comes to our finances and our financial wellness that we are using reputable people and reputable associations, .org.edu. I heard a story the other day about somebody that had all the accounts wiped out because they fell for fraud. So make sure that it's not a fraudulent thing. If somebody's calling you and asking you for your information, you did not call them, then if it's a credit card or something, say, okay, I'll call you back, and call back with the number on the card. Don't provide your information to them because you could be giving them information. I have a friend and she says all the time, her mom pays the bills, her dad answers the phone. So her dad gets the call. You didn't pay your cable bill. We're going to turn it off right away. And he goes and gives the people the information and then wipes his checking account out. So don't do that. Like, if they're telling you you're not paying the bill, then, get the bill out, do a little research, call them back. And 9 times out of 10, especially if it's a fraud, you're going to, be okay because you called them. But, make sure that you're being cautious of that. Because unfortunately, the people that do bad things in the world work a lot, they work hard at doing it, and they're a lot more successful sometimes than we want them to be. So just be cautious. Again, now that we know what these sections are of financial wellness, we're going to look at how to implement this in our lives for better financial wellness. So keys to work for financial wellness, finding tools at work to make yourself successful. So again, a lot of places have different opportunities and use different ways of hiring and firing and things like that. But you might need to evaluate your current situation and say, how's this impacting my finances? I had a job that I loved, didn't pay enough. I had to leave. It's sad, but now I have a new job that I love. And it makes a difference. So evaluate what you're doing in your current employment, see how satisfied you are, see if you're able to make ends meet, and if you like your work environment. And if you can't, look online. There's hiring applications or networks that you can look online and find applications. I know, like, Rutgers, obviously big company. We have like a whole hiring site. You can go on and see all the listings. So a lot of companies do it that way now. Try networking with friends and family to, say, hey, I'm in the market. Do you know of anything? Because I tell my kids that all the time. I'm like, use your network. You have a great network. Like, people are glad to help you out, and they know you're reputable, then they're going to help you. So, try using the networking opportunities that you have to get to some of those goals. And according to Rutgers Cooperative Extension's financial wellness expert, Barbara O'Neill, who I mentioned in the beginning, there are 3 ways to improve your cash flow. You're going to increase your cash flow, you're going to reduce expenses, or you're going to do both, right? So not always what you want to hear, but something's got to give, Barbara also noted that ideally no more than 15 to 20% of your net pay should be spent on consumer debt payments, and no more than 40 to 50% of net pay for housing and consumer debt payments combined. Okay. And again, I'm going to send you all these materials so that you have them from Barbara. She's retired now. Fantastic. Still use all her stuff. We miss her dearly. She was a great contributor to our team in family community health sciences. All right. So this means that if your income's not so lucrative, then you might need to find a better paying job. Look for tools. Again, I'm going to give you some afterwards that can help you to do that. Try to find a way to creatively set up a spending plan or a budget that's going to keep you in line with your overspending. You might have to give up some things. There's really easy ways to do that. I know what my son's big on this stuff. Well, my oldest son was like, Mom, the coffee, right? You go into the store, and I won't name any, but you spend $2-3 every pop on a coffee, over time that adds up. So maybe it's doing little things like that, like making coffee at home. It could be, maybe will help you out over the, to start trimming things, but, try to budget and save your money so you have it for an emergency. Make sure you're not overspending. You should have, for an emergency, you should have ideally savings that's 3 to 6 months of your essential living expenses. And, make sure that you have that in case that bump in the road pops up. If you're not sure how to manage a budget, consider taking a course, a course online, a course at a community college, or a university to improve those skills. So you learn how to budget, or talk to somebody that that, you might have a friend that's really good at budgeting, things, and setting up a goal or a game plan. Oops. All right. And then, you might also want to take classes to improve your skills. So I think that this sometimes gets overlooked because there's so many opportunities. And back in the day, my grandmother, she worked at the same job for 37 years, loved it, but she never moved. People move around now. So that's an opportunity to improve your wellness. If you have a really good set of skills and you need to improve your financial wellness, maybe you look at where else you could work that might pay you more, because a lot of times now, there's a lot of movement around. So take classes to improve those skills, change those skills. Right now, I know people that like just stop and like, okay, I did this career, now I'm doing this one. So maybe that's something that would help you with your financial wellness. And then finally, you want to make sure that you keep your resume up to date. So when that great opportunity, you're networking and your friend says, oh, I know a job, but it closes tomorrow. You want to make sure you have that resume ready to hand right away so that you're ready to go with that, and you're golden. Okay, so now we have keys to financial wellness with checking and saving accounts. And as I mentioned, it's really important to keep records up to date. That if you were hacked, or somebody got into your accounts, if you had everything up to date, you'd be a lot more apt to know that right off the bat. So make sure to know that. And it's really easy nowadays to say up to date. I mean, we have electronic banking. We have more contact from banks via email and text reminders with balance information. So if you don't have those set up on your account, and they would help you to keep better track of your checking or savings account, giving you balance information, then go ahead and go to the bank and see how you can get them set up. They're very helpful, the banks. That's what they're there for. So you can get them set up and ready to go, and you have a lot more awareness of your activities for your account. And even though you get regular reminders, it's really important to cross-check your own records and balance your checkbook regularly. What if somebody made a mistake? Or what if an account, something got taken out twice in electronic banking by mistake? So check in and make sure that everything's correct, even if you are getting those reminders. That's going to help you be more financially responsible, and it's going to make you be a lot more aware of your spending too. My husband says, the other day he was saying this. It used to be you'd go to the grocery store, it was $10 a bag. Now you go to the grocery store, it's like $30 a bag. So in his mind, he still thinks it's $10 a bag, but it's not. So we'll walk out the door and he'll say, how did we spend all that money? We didn't buy anything. But so it's easier to keep track of if you're checking in on those things. Also, banks and other credible places offer tools to track your money and accounts. Be sure that a tool is not charging you, right? So there's all these great apps now. Make sure they're not charging you to help you be safe. And your bank, again, could help with this. And I'll mention again with the accounts, one thing that my husband and I did that we found really helpful is there's free places that you can lock your credit down. So for instance, if you put a hold on it, and they have to notify you so the hackers can't get into it. And we have a son that just finished his master's, he's moving on in the world, and we said, lock your accounts when you get the apartment, like after you get everything set up, to keep that credit score good. And then like if you go to buy a big purchase, say you're going to go buy a mattress or something like that, you unlock it, they put it through, and then you lock it back up. So you can do that, and it helps to keep you safer. So just another thing to make sure that you're not being overcharged, and that you're safe, and that your bank, again, your bank can help with that, and you can check for resources that I'll send out. Make sure you look really closely at your savings options too. So make sure both your checking and savings account work now and for your future day-to-day activities. So for example, if you decide I'm going to invest, I have a chunk of money here, I want to invest, I'm going to put it in a 3-year CD. It has a high return. I'm going to get a lot of money back on that. That's awesome. And then in 2 years, you need that money. So now you're going to get penalized probably everything you made, right? So be smart about it. Look at it. If it's a high yield, it might come with some penalties. Check it out. Be aware of what you're doing, and consider, like, think about, again, plan for that future of, okay, I can put it in for a year, but in 2 years, I probably am going to need that money, and I don't want to get hit with it. So I'll just do it for 1 year. Small steps like this are really going to help you, to be financially well. And also another small step, to people don't think of this sometimes, direct deposit. If you're still working, or even if you're getting, I think they do it anyway with Social Security, but get that check put right into your account. If you walk around with that, if you cash it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to stop here. I'm going to stop here. By the time you get home, right, you've divvied out that money. So try to put it right into the bank, via direct deposit, or go right to the bank if you have a check, so that it gets put right in there. All right. Did we do this one? Am I off here? All right, so let's talk about debt awareness. So we didn't do this one yet. I said this before, nobody wants to know. It's it's the elephant in the room. We don't want to talk about how much debt we have, but it's really, really important. So to be financially well, it's a good idea to make a list of your debt and who you owe what to. It could be a spreadsheet, it could be handwritten. Figure it out, and then figure out the length of the monthly payments, to help you identify how you can best manage the debt. If you find you've gotten into debt that, too much is too much is there, you can't manage it, find a credible organization that can help pay down your debt. There's nonprofit credit counseling agencies that can help with this. They can help reduce the debt and guide you how to pay it down a little bit at a time. Negotiate with creditors, and how to lower the interest rates on there. And I was just talking to somebody the other day who's gotten a second job to pay down debt. And if you try to pay, they have these tables all the time, a pair of roller skates, that cost $19.99, and you keep taking the credit card debt along with you, those could end up paying a lot more than $19.99 for that. And there's always those charts out that tell you how much your debt you're carrying is. So it's important, if you do have credit cards, try to pay them monthly. Try not to overextend what you're buying, so that you can control that. I know there's like great points and stuff for credit cards that people use for all different ways. Use the points to your advantage if you have one of those credit cards, and try to make sure that you don't overspend, from the get-go, if you haven't gotten yourself into debt yet, hopefully. You can negotiate with creditors on how to lower your rate too, and how to pay down that debt. An example of a credible source is one that ends in .org, as I've said, or a university or extension based institution, and they'll end in edu on the internet, just like the other ones end in .org. And one great example, and again, I'm going to send this out afterwards, Utah State University has a website, and that tool, did I put it up there? No, I didn't put it there. That tool it has a tool for paying down debt. So you can just go in there and do it right there using their tool. You don't even have to, go to anybody. Talk with your bank. There may be other ways to get advice on how to pay down debt by asking for financial planning or assistance there from the bank. And just like I mentioned in the other dimensions of wellness, planning can assist with resolving problems or avoiding them altogether. So just as we would plan for how we're going to lower our cholesterol by exercising and eating right and getting a good night's sleep, we want to plan with our debt to avoid, having come up with too much debt and problems. If you want to avoid debt, have planning techniques like I mentioned. You want to try to, not overspend what you're bringing in, pay it down every month so you don't have a high interest rate. Find a low interest rate, when you're purchasing big items like cars or trucks. Talk with the dealer too, or the salesperson, like, what's my better opportunity here? Is it better for me to take 0% financing, or is it better for the other deal that you're having? And a lot of times they'll know, they work with that. So you can ask them what the better option is for you. Try to save a little bit extra every month if you can to pay down debt quicker. So for instance, if you have a mortgage, try to pay down a little bit faster, a little bit extra on that, so that maybe you get it to a lower rate. Barbara O'Neill, again, from Rutgers Cooperative Extension, recommends paying at least double the required monthly payment if possible. That'll help it get down sooner and avoid the debt, getting into debt pay credit card bills monthly to avoid interest fees. And this too will help to reduce that. So pay the full amount if you can, but definitely pay up something every month. And then our retirement accounts. When you think when you're thinking about your future, again, I said it before, it's never too early or too late to start planning for retirement. If you're currently retired and things are not going the way you plan, maybe you want to like reevaluate that and come up with a new plan, because things change. There's planning is a critical part of saving for your future. So set a savings goal when you begin working to set for savings. And if you've been working a while and haven't been putting money aside for retirement, make that goal now. There are calculators from financial institution, banks, and sites like calculator.net that can help you to get started to figure out what you need to do to put enough away for your retirement age. And you want to make sure that you plan what you will need to live during retirement too. Think about things like medical expenses, right? That could be a bump in the road for us. Housing, day-to-day expenses, and things you'd like to do in retirement, like, cost money and you'd like to do, like maybe you have a kid that has a grandchild for you, lives the other side of the state or the country. You want to be able to plan to get there to see that grandbaby. Let's see. If your employer offers match, this is really important. Be sure to contribute enough to receive the full match. It's essentially free money. It's part of your package. I say this about PTO too, when I talk about occupational wellness. Don't give back the PTO and don't give back, the match. Like make sure that you're getting all you can out of that match. And a lot of companies now, I know because I have kids that are like going through the job market now, they'll offer a lot more. So that could be a big perk it might not seem like it now, but if a company's offering a better match, it's something to look at. The other thing, some companies offer, stock investments and things like that. So that's another perk that you want to make sure that you're looking at when you're trying to get new employment. And back to the last slide on paying off debt. If you reduce your debt, you'll have more to save for the future. So don't give it to the credit card companies. They've got enough. Like try to get that debt down so you get it. So use those steps now to try to, plan for retirement and be ready for that. Okay. Oh, wait, I skipped. Yep, we did this one. All right. So back to the beginning, here with the satisfaction with current and future financial situations. So hopefully you've gotten some good ideas today about planning for your future. If you leave me your email, I'll be sure to send out the information that, it is great. You can also Google Rutgers Cooperative Extension, Financial, Barbara O'Neill, Karen Ensley. There's great information on the internet that they've written. And it's really important. A lot of it is basic stuff. But again, I feel like with all the 8 dimensions of wellness, we all know a lot of this, but we need to be reminded and we need to make sure that we keep coming back and doing it and circling back and making sure we're balanced. So that's where, I think it really is very cohesive with the rest of the other 8 dimensions of wellness, things we know, but we need to follow through with them. Here's this QR code to let me know what you thought of the class again, if you would be so kind. And I'll send this out again in the email so that you have that available. And then just to sum up, the 3 areas we talked about, or 4 areas, sorry, were work. And for those of you online, Brooke has just released another poll, if you'd be so kind to complete that. The 4 areas are work, checking savings accounts, debt and retirement, and other accounts. So keep those in mind as you try to strive for your financial wellness. This is really sticking here. All right. So we're going to do a little activity now. We do this after all the 8 dimensions of wellness. But now that you've learned about, what the financial dimension of wellness is, hopefully you're really interested in trying to work on financial wellness to keep everything in balance. And hopefully you're more mindful of that today. And again, I have the definition up here again, satisfaction with current and future financial situations. So in that definition, and as you think about that definition, think about where you are for a minute with your financial wellness. Don't set a goal yet, but just think about maybe an area that might be good for you to improve. Maybe you're not happy in your work situation. Maybe you're not saving enough for retirement, or you don't have enough savings in retirement. Think about that for a minute. And then after we move to the next slide, we're going to set up a goal for that. Remember what I said, that goals take a lot of times 6 weeks to master. This one might take a little bit more, obviously, depending on situations with your finances, but keep chipping away at them so that you can become financially well too. And to set the goal up, we're going to use the SMART method. The SMART method is specific, measured, attainable, realistic, and timely. An example of how to do that for this area for financial wellness. If we're being specific, we're going to to better manage debt, I'm going to be aware of my spending habits. A lot of times there's stuff we want. We live in a very here and now society. So, if you set something up so that we're going to manage our debt better, managing that here and now spending could be really useful. So taking time out to say, okay, I'm going to be aware. I'm going to write it down. I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to wait to buy that bigger ticket item when I have a little bit more security. The measured could be, I'm going to create a spreadsheet of weekly spending habits. Let you figure out what you're spending. Mark off on your credit card. Look at what you spent it on. My husband goes through, God bless him. He used to save all the receipts. I thought it was going to be the end of our marriage. I'm not kidding you, but I make him get rid of it. Look, he gets rid of them now for my mental sanity. But he goes through and he checks off. And if there's anything red flags on there, he says to me, "What was this?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, we bought this on." Oh, okay, that's good. But he checks everything, and we found where we've been double billed at places by accident, But if you find it, why are you giving that money to them twice? So be like, create a spreadsheet of what you're spending and check your spending habits out to make sure. Attainable. You're going to make it attainable. I'm going to cut my spending down by 1% over the next 3 months. That's not a lot, right? Hopefully. But you're going to just take a little chunk off of what you're spending so that maybe you can put it into that savings account. For realistic, we're going to keep on task. I'll think about what I'm spending and how much it costs me to buy that item based on how much I make an hour. Okay. So if you're thinking about, it might be, again, if you're retired, it might be a little different, but if you break down how much you're spending and you think, okay, I'm making X amount of dollars and that coffee just cost me X amount of dollars, I'm not buying that coffee anymore. It makes it a little more realistic to try to break it down that way and be realistic about it. Timely. I'm going to look at my spending again in 3 months and see how I'm doing. And I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. I am not going to go out and spend more money. Okay. So try to figure that out. Give yourself a nice reward for that, because that's important. So that's how you would create up a SMART goal and set a SMART goal. And you can do this for all 8 dimensions, as I have shown you before. And then finally, what we're going to do now is we're going to set that goal using, the financial wellness as a goal. We're going to use the SMART goal method to set it. We're going to revisit the goal if we need to. And then there's only one class left, but you can come attend the next class to get more information about how to be overall holistically well. And like I said, I have all of the 8 dimensions of wellness recorded on my website, on the FCHS Cape May County website. So you're welcome to go there and check any of them out. Okay. And then these are the resources that we used. And I am going to take questions. Let me go back to this one just in case. I'm going to take questions from online, Brooke, if there's anyone there. I see there's one thing. If anybody has questions online, and then we'll go to the audience.
No questions.
Thank you. All right. How about in the audience? Go ahead.
What are your thoughts on life insurance, like the long-term insurance?
Yeah. So I think you have to be, again, you have to find somebody that's really, the question was, what do I think about life insurance and what do I think about long-term care insurance?
Yeah.
So I know just from my parents, right? They had one of the long-term care insurance things. And I just had this conversation with my mom the other day. It got to the point where it was going to be $5,000 a month to have her have like some kind of home care. She's older, but like $5,000 a month to have this like person be able to come into their house. So they reevaluate it. And again, that's what I'm saying. Reevaluate what you're doing. Reevaluate it and say, is it worth it? Is it going to pay out? I'll give you 2 examples. My husband also is getting to a point where he's like, yeah, he's like, pretty soon you're not gonna be able to collect. I'm not gonna do life insurance anymore because it's gonna cost me too much money. So you have to evaluate, am I putting too much money into this? And you get to certain ages. So I would say talk to your advisor, talk to somebody about that and see how it's paying out. Is it more beneficial for you to put that money into an account for your family should anything happen, right? So you want to look at those. It's always important to plan and set those goals for that reason, right? And see what's going to pay out to you. And back and the same with education. I think, it brings up another point in my mind. I remember my husband was looking to make a career change. And, I obviously think a lot of academia and education. I work here, but he looked at it and he said, well, for me to pay for my master's degree, I'm going to have to make XYZ every year to pay for that. And I'm going to have to work for XYZ more years. So is it going to pay off? You want to be financially secure, but how can you do that? Sometimes you might have to look at another option because, the higher degree might cost you so much that it's never going to pay out. Right. So you have to look at all those things and be, take a beat and just be mindful of it and see where you are with it. Any other questions? Go ahead.
So thank you. Yeah, I don't remember.
I know. Thanks for coming. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so glad you guys see you again. It's nice to have you back.
What is your date for next month?
You ask me this all the time. I don't know what's happening tonight. No, I'm kidding. I think it's the 18th.
It's a Tuesday again?
Yes, we're doing it Tuesday again. I don't have hold on a second. Yes, it's the 18th. November 18th, and that'll be the final one. And I'll, check in with the library and see what they want to do for next year. But yeah. And we do them online too. So if you haven't caught one, they're there online and then I present them online.
So there's nothing next week then with you?
With me, no.
Okay.
No, next week I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. So no.
Okay.
Thank you all online for joining.